So now if I go to synth, and if I go to edit synth, BAM1 generator, and warp. Now I'm going to increase this all the way. You can hear how the frequency is being modulated. And the modulation amount changes every time the generator is retriggered. So, and the way you change the waveform is by changing the value in warp WT. And these are the same waveform options that are available for the actual generator itself. So if I set this to, say, like a noise, you get a different sort of oscillation effect. So there are two other parameters left that I want to discuss. Those are the EXPMULT and ENDOFFSET parameters. And these are what are used for doing pitch bends. First of all, I'm going to turn warp off entirely, bring that down to 0. So they're also mostly easily explained by using a single triggered step. Let's see. So the way this works is that EXPMULT is an exponential multiplier, and ENDOFFSET is the final frequency offset for the generator. So every 128 samples, EXPMULT is multiplied with the frequency of the BAM generator until the frequency of the generator equals the start frequency multiplied by ENDOFFSET. So that might be a little confusing to you right now, but if I show you an example, it'll make a little more sense. So if we set EXPMULT to a value that's greater than 1, then we're doing a pitch bend in a positive direction to a higher pitch, and if we set it to something that's less than 1, it's a lower pitch. So in this example, let's set EXPMULT to, say, about 1.003, and we'll set the ENDOFFSET to about, 1.5. So what you can hear here is that the frequency is going from 200 to about 300 hertz, because the end frequency is 1.5 times greater than the start frequency, and EXPMULT sets the rate at which this exponential pitch bend is happening. So if I make this value smaller, you can hear that the pitch bend takes longer to happen, and if I make it larger, it happens almost instantaneously. Okay, so you can also use these parameters to slide in a negative direction. So what I'll do is I'll set EXPMULT to a value that's it's a little less than 1, and I'll set ENDOFFSET to, say, 0.5. So now you can hear that it's going from about 200 to 100 hertz. So if there's a contradiction in the EXPMULT and ENDOFFSET values, then just the base frequency is played. So for instance, if I set EXPMULT to something greater than 1, while the ENDOFFSET is less than 1, then it just plays at 200 hertz. So you can also smoothly slide between notes with control steps. So what I'm going to do is set a control step at step 16. So push start to exit, push X, and then push down on the D-pad in order to turn that into a control step. So now if I go back to step 0, synth, edit synth, BAM 0 gen, what I can do now is I'm going to show you how to have the frequency climb from 200 to 400 hertz, and then from 400 to 800 hertz. So first of all, what I'm going to do is set the frequency at step 0 to 200, the EXPMULT to around, 1.03 again, and then ENDOFFSET to 2. So actually, I'm going to go into the envelope and change the envelope a little bit. So that way, you can hear this sound for a longer period of time. So now we have the first part of the slide from 200 to 400 Hertz. Now to go from 400 to 800 Hertz, we go to the control step, and we need to set the end offset again to 2.0. So I'll bring EXPMULT down to about 1.3. So you can hear how it slides once and then it slides again. So what else do I want to say about this? So if this was a triggered step, then the frequency at step 16 would be loaded back in. So it would slide from 200 to 400 and then 200 to 400 again. Also, we can use this for doing positive and negative slides. So I can bring EXPMULT to, say, so what I've done here is brought EXPMULT value to a little bit below 1 and end offset to about 0.5. So from 0 to 16 it goes from 200 to 400, and then from 16 till the end of the loop it goes from 400 back down to 200. So this is a case where the frequency value in this step is actually being ignored, because it's actually sliding from 400 to 200, not 200 to 100. And that's because this is a control-only step. So this is probably one of the most confusing parts of using the generators in PSPSeq, is using the slides. If you don't use slides, you don't have to worry about any of this. However, if this is something you are going to use, then generally speaking, the best thing to do is just play around with them for a little while and get an idea of how they work. The most basic idea is that trigger steps always load a new frequency, and control steps try to use the last frequency that was sent to them. This way you can have smooth pitch bends with control steps and easy to predict output if you're using triggered steps. That's about all I really have to say on the BAM generator. Next I'm going to talk about the BFM generator, which is an FM synthesizer which uses a BAM generator for both the modulator and carrier. It's also the most complex instrument in PSPSeq, but now that you understand how BAM works, it shouldn't be too hard to explain how everything in BFM works as well.